During the final decade of the 19th century, the political landscape of the British working class began to shift decisively with the emergence of a new political force known as the Independent Labour Party. This organization came to symbolize a transformation within the labor movement, representing a pragmatic and morally driven alternative to more doctrinaire forms of socialism that had previously defined the struggle for workers' rights. Central to the rise of the Independent Labour Party was its commitment to parliamentary action, ethical socialism, and broad-based appeal, a direction that attracted many prominent socialists who had grown disillusioned with more rigid and confrontational groups like the Social Democratic Federation. One of the key advantages held by the Independent Labour Party early in its development was the election of Keir Hardie to the House of Commons. In the general election held in the year 1892, Hardie won the seat for West Ham South. This victory was deeply significant, not only because it gave the party a direct voice in the legislative arena, but also because it offered concrete proof that a working-class candidate, running independently of the established political parties, could succeed at the national level. Hardie's success allowed the Independent Labour Party to position itself as a more effective and realistic vehicle for social and political change than the Social Democratic Federation, which had often struggled to translate its revolutionary ideas into practical electoral gains. Keir Hardie was more than a symbolic figure. He embodied a new style of socialist politics rooted in compassion, non-violence, and religious morality. Unlike the rigid Marxist orientation of the Social Democratic Federation, which often alienated potential supporters through its doctrinaire positions and aggressive rhetoric, the Independent Labour Party under Hardie's guidance embraced a gentler, more inclusive approach. The goal was to create a democratic socialist movement that could appeal not only to industrial workers but also to ethical reformers, intellectuals, and middle-class sympathizers who believed in social justice and fairness. Hardie's presence in Parliament gave the Independent Labour Party credibility and influence. It provided the organisation with a platform to advocate for policies such as universal suffrage, public ownership of key industries, the abolition of child labour, and improvements to education and healthcare. These demands were grounded in practical reality rather than ideological purity, a distinction that became one of the defining features of the party's strategy and identity. This pragmatism, combined with Hardie's strong oratory and moral vision, allowed the Independent Labour Party to distinguish itself from its rivals and attract new members from across the socialist spectrum. The growing influence of the Independent Labour Party began to draw attention from figures within the broader socialist movement who had previously aligned themselves with the Social Democratic Federation. The Social Democratic Federation, founded in the early 1880s, had been the first organised socialist political party in Britain. Despite its pioneering role, the Federation had struggled to maintain internal unity and electoral relevance. Its rigid adherence to Marxist doctrine, coupled with leadership disputes and inflexible tactics, led many of its members to seek a more effective and cooperative path toward social reform. Among those who left the Social Democratic Federation for the Independent Labour Party were several notable individuals who would go on to play important roles in British political life. One of the most significant of these was Henry Hyde Champion. A skilled organizer and editor, Champion had been an influential voice within the Federation but became increasingly disillusioned with its internal divisions and ideological rigidity. Believing that socialist politics needed to engage with the wider public rather than remain trapped in theoretical disputes, he joined the Independent Labour Party and contributed to its efforts to build a broad-based and inclusive political movement. Ben Tillett, another prominent defector from the Federation, brought with him a deep connection to the laboring masses. A trade unionist and skilled orator, Tillett had played a central role in organizing dock workers and had become a respected figure among industrial laborers. His decision to align with the Independent Labour Party reflected a growing belief among rank-and-file workers that political representation was essential for achieving lasting improvements in working conditions. Tillett's support for the party helped to solidify its ties to the trade union movement and expand its influence within the working class. Jim Connell, best known as the author of the Labour anthem, The Red Flag, also left the Social Democratic Federation in favour of the Independent Labour Party. Connell's involvement symbolized a shift in the cultural identity of the socialist movement, one that placed greater emphasis on dignity, justice, and ethical engagement. His commitment to the cause of labor was matched by his belief in peaceful democratic processes and the moral necessity of uplifting the poor and oppressed. Another key figure who joined the Independent Labour Party was George Lansbury. A devout Christian and passionate advocate for the poor, Lansbury embodied the moral and humanitarian ideals that the party championed. His conversion to its cause demonstrated the appeal of the Independent Labour Party to those who saw socialism not merely as an economic doctrine but as a spiritual and ethical mission. Lansbury would later rise to become one of the most respected leaders of the labor movement, known for his unwavering commitment to non-violence and social justice. The departure of such high-profile figures from the Social Democratic Federation to the Independent Labour Party marked a turning point in the history of British socialism. It signaled a growing consensus that effective political action required more than theoretical rigor and revolutionary ambition. It required strategic flexibility, moral appeal, and a willingness to engage with the institutions of democratic society. The Independent Labour Party offered all of these elements and increasingly became the focal point of socialist politics in Britain. The Federation, for its part, struggled to recover from these losses. Its refusal to adapt to the changing political climate and its continued insistence on ideological orthodoxy left it increasingly isolated. Though it would later attempt to reinvent itself by merging with other radical groups to form the British Socialist Party, the organisation never regained its former prominence. The ascendancy of the Independent Labour Party was irreversible, and it soon played a leading role in the formation of the Labour Representation Committee, which evolved into the modern Labour Party. The Labour Representation Committee was established at the beginning of the 20th century as a coalition of socialist groups, trade unions, and reformist organisations. It represented a culmination of the efforts initiated by the Independent Labour Party to build a unified political force capable of contesting elections and influencing national policy. The success of this committee in securing parliamentary seats for Labour representatives confirmed the effectiveness of the strategy pioneered by Hardie and his allies. It also vindicated the decision of so many former Federation members to join a more practical and forward-looking movement. The rise of the Independent Labour Party did not signify the abandonment of socialist ideals. On the contrary, it represented a redefinition of those ideals in a form that could resonate with a broader audience. By emphasizing democratic participation, ethical governance, and incremental reform, the party created a space for a diverse range of voices and strategies within the larger socialist tradition. This openness allowed it to grow rapidly and position itself as a central player in British politics during the early decades of the 20th century. In hindsight, the evolution of the Independent Labour Party serves as a case study in the importance of adaptability and moral clarity in political movements. While the Social Democratic Federation had laid the groundwork for socialist organising in Britain, it was the Independent Labour Party that succeeded in translating socialist values into practical political achievements. Its appeal to conscience, cooperation, and democratic action resonated with a population eager for change but wary of extremism and abstract dogma. The defections of Henry Hyde Champion, Ben Tillett, Jim Connell, and George Lansbury were not just personal decisions. They were reflective of a broader movement within the socialist community toward a more inclusive, democratic, and effective form of political engagement. Their contributions helped to shape a movement that would endure for generations, influencing the course of British politics and contributing to the development of a more just and equitable society.